Hey everybody, it's your girl Michelle with Girlz Talk, Real Talk, because when girls talk, just about anything can happen. Well, I am so excited to be here. We are actually closing out our series on the truth about soul ties. And in the midst of this series, we have learned a lot. There's been a lot of information given. We have actually shared a lot of information as well. And so before we really get into things, I want my co hosts to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Tracy. Tracy, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, everyone. I am Tracy Palmer. I am a transformational life and business coach, an author, speaker, and podcaster. Um, I am so glad to be a part of this. God is doing amazing things in my life, and I'm just glad for what all is happening and transitioning. So, thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. I'm glad that you've been on this journey with me. Okay, Chandra, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, everyone. My name is Chandra Brundage. I am a licensed minister, motivation speaker, and also a self published author. I am grateful to be here with you, Michelle, Tracy, and Shar'ron. And I am totally grateful what God is doing in all of our lives. We're just going to continue to make this happen. It's a new year. I believe God has opened up windows and He has opened up doors to move mightily. And I'm just blessed to have this opportunity to be with you on today. And I pray the blessings of the Lord upon the show. And what God is doing in my life is just continuing on writing. I'm in the process of writing another book. It's entitled Take Another Shot. And I'm also trying to relaunch and enlarge my platform on my Shine page. And you could reach me on Facebook, Shine at TNOWF, where I minister and motivate God's people. So thank you for again having me, Michelle. Blessings and peace to all of you.
And our resident therapist. I'm so blessed to be able to have the Girlz Talk show have a resident therapist. So, Shar'ron, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, hello. I am Shar'ron Mason. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am an author. Just submitted my third book to the editor this past Monday. Super thrilled, super thrilled. And also have a natural hair care line. I'm not sure what my hair is looking like today, but anyway, have a hair care line for natural hair, and I'm so excited to be here to talk about this very important topic. I've been seeing clients all day, so I look a little bit weary. Yeah, I've seen a few people today. Looking forward to seeing even another couple after I get off tonight. But hoping we have some great discussion and some wonderful information goes forth. So happy to be here with the ladies. Thanks again, Michelle, for inviting me onto the show.
We got you, girl. We have a resident therapist. We be calling on you. At least I do. I be calling on you. But I want to put this out there. I want to make sure that the listening audience knows that if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you want to ask us anything in regards to our topic, we are asking that you would put your comments in the comments below, and we will in turn answer those. I want to clear something up. I'm going to do this at the beginning of the show. I know some of you have seen my post, and I know some of you know that my brother passed away this morning. Although I've got nothing but love, nothing but concern, I get that. My show today is done in honor of my brother because he would not have me stop. He would not have me postpone. He would not have me to stop living and to do the things that I do. And so the one thing that I asked you to do for the Bledsoe clan is just keep us in your prayers. Keep us lifted up because this wasn't a shock to us. We knew it was coming, but you're never actually prepared. And so there'll be times when I'll go through my grieving and do what I have to do. Trust me, I'm taking care of Michelle. But tonight's show is in honor of my brother. I want to be able to not show you that you have to keep living. But at this point, I've got to learn how to live without him. And I've got to learn how to live without having him a phone call away. And what that will look like in my life. And I have to start that today. I can't wait until tomorrow or next week or after the funeral and all of that. I'm not trying to be strong. I'm just being real, and I'm being who I am. This is me. This is what I do. And and I really believe that God has prepared me for this right here, right now. And so right now I'm just dealing how God has me dealing. And with that being said, we're about to move on with this here show. All right. So I wanted to get that cleared out and letting everybody know, just keep us in your prayers. But this is an important topic. And the reason that it's important is it's about relationship. And we're all in relationship. We're in relationship with family members who are the very first ones that we're ever in relationship with. And then other individuals, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whether it's in church, whether it's those connections and those networks that we're a part of, we're always in relationships. And I think one of the most important things that we have to understand and that we have to learn is that sometimes we'll find ourselves in an unhealthy relationship. And a lot of times when we find ourselves in those unhealthy relationships, it's because they are unhealthy soul tie relationships. So I'm going to do my disclaimer that I do every time we come on here, and the girls normally know to expect my disclaimer. I am in no way saying that any type of relationship is an unhealthy soul tie relationship. What I am saying is that if you can identify your relationship by the tips and the tools that we speak of today and how we have spoken of in the other episodes that we've done on this topic, then that means you're in the midst of an unhealthy soul tie. And so you have a responsibility to yourself to be able to come out of that safely and to be able to find a safe place to get your life back on track and to deal with the emotions that that relationship left you feeling. I think it's important for you to also realize is that there's people like Shar'ron that are out there that are meant to be able to help you walk through what your healing is going to look like. A lot of times when we go to the church and we tell people of what it is that we're dealing with, the first thing out of their mouth is go pray about it. Well, that's true. You do go pray about it. And then you go find somebody's couch to go lay on so that you can be able to talk that thing out and be able to work your issues out. Because you don't come out of this unscathed. You're going to take something out of it that is not meant for you to take out of it because of the emotion. Okay? So I want to start off with us talking about exactly what a soul tie relationship is. Now, there are 4 kinds of relationships. There's 4. There's the marriage, where there's a partnership between a husband and wife. There's the business kind, and those are the partnerships that we get into where we're in business with another individual, but it's not necessarily a healthy one. So you have your healthy soul ties, which are the ones that we're meant to have. Those are the ones that we are meant to have because they enrich our lives. They enhance our lives. They help us become a better individual. And then there are the unhealthy kinds, the ones that we're talking about today, the ones that suck the life out of you, the ones that make you feel like you're unworthy and that you're not deserving of the love and the acceptance and the support that you need to continue growing into the person that you are designed, created, and purposed to be. So the third one is those sexual relationships. Okay. Now, when I say sexual, I'm not talking about the relationship between a man and a woman that went and put a ring on it. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about them hookups. I'm talking about those late night dates that you don't see them until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and they leave before the sun comes up. I'm talking about those relationships that have you questioning who you are and that tear down your self-esteem and that you can't seem to get away from. Every time you walk away, you go back. Those ones that you be telling your girlfriends, man,
Mm.
he curled my toe. Them
Come
are the
on.
ones that, yup. This is girls talk, real talk.
Real
Mhm.
That's it.
talk.
Okay.
Real
Mhm.
talk.
All right. So then we have those friendships. Whereas our friendships can be healthy, we also have the friendships that are unhealthy. And those are the friendships of those people that seem to hold close to us. We know that they may even be situations to where the time that they're supposed to spend in your life has ceased to exist. They have reached their expiration date, and you've held on to that relationship because it's benefiting you in some way. And normally, an unhealthy soul tie relationship, you are benefiting in some way, whether it's a healthy benefit or an unhealthy benefit. There is a benefit to you, and that's why you stay in it. So, those are the four types of relationships that we have basically covered
Mhm.
during the series. That very first one was I asked the question, and this question has gotten me into some hot water. I want y'all to know that. Ladies, this got me into some hot water. Because I asked the question. Our very first soul tie that we covered was on Samson and Delilah. Y'all remember that one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Y'all remember my
Right.
question?
Mm-mm.
Uh,
See?
You know that.
See?
You
Okay,
know
the
that.
question that I asked, because I seem to ask one every time, Shar'ron. The question that I asked was, did you know that Samson and Delilah were in a soul tie relationship?
Mhm.
And did you know that Delilah was pimping Samson out?
Mhm.
right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that last part of that question got me a little heat.
Mm.
That brought me a little heat. But I'm okay. I'm a big girl. I can handle it. But it
Wow.
did bring a little heat with it. Because if you think about it, even though I'm bringing it in today's vernacular, think about it.
Mhm.
Did Delilah pimp Samson out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, you ready for me to
I'm
ask?
ready.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Absolutely. She sold. She got. Oh, who said some words? Hold on. Let me see. She got a piece of change for it. That's all I'm gonna say. She got a piece of change. It was an exchange of change, for what was going to go down. She had no interest in having a committed, lifelong relationship. And I did write about this. This is my little shameless plug in my book, Dangerously in Love. That was one of the um, soul ties, even though I didn't call it that, because myself as well did not. I don't think you mentioned this, but I didn't really, you know how you know what a soul tie is based on other people's definitions.
Right.
And I always had a problem with that. I was like, yeah, I don't do that whole soul tie thing. I don't understand it. I don't know how y'all defining it. Y'all got some weird, crazy stuff. But then as I was brought into this platform under this understanding, it tied right in to what I had wrote about. And so going back to that, absolutely, because her intent when she was approached was for the reason of it was a monetary reason. So they had a need of taking him down. She obviously had a financial need. So let the pimping begin.
And that's it.
There you go.
There you go.
There isn't any better way to say it, because what we have to understand is that if we really want to be honest, when we're in these negative, unhealthy soul tie relationships, somebody's being pimped.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, some way.
Somebody's being taken advantage of. Somebody is not walking away with the whole truth of the matter.
Mm-mm.
One individual knows what's really going on, and the other one does not.
Come
That
on.
is the unhealthiness of the relationship. Okay.
Mm.
So then the second one that we did, which I think that was the longest episode we did.
That one's deep.
Okay. So I also asked a question about this one, just putting it out there. So my question was, when David sent the servant to fetch Bathsheba. So that's what
Mm.
he did. He went to fetch her. Could she have refused the invitation?
Right.
So, I just kind of put it out there. The second one was on the servant leader relationship, how those relationships sometimes can be built on an unhealthy soul tie when another individual is not being honored in the role that God created them to be honored in, but is being manipulated. This is where the spirit of manipulation comes
Yeah.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is where the spirit of manipulation comes in. So I'm going to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Could Bathsheba have refused David's invitation?
It's gonna be some consequences and repercussions.
See, go ahead, say it, say it.
She wasn't on that call, but she right.
Yeah, right. I mean, so she could have said no. However,
Mm-hmm.
there was going to be a cost to pay. So,
Mm-hmm. So I said no because of that. So when it was posed, I was like, no, because unless she wanted the heat, unless she wanted to deal with what was coming. But I remember what was funny is why I loved how the conversation went, because I love Chandra's answer at first. Boy, she
But
was like, yeah.
biblically,
Well, I loved it.
consequences.
No,
But
I
I'm
loved it.
thinking,
That's
hey,
what made the conversation fun, man. That's what I'm saying. I loved it.
yeah, that's what I said. Biblically, I understand.
Yeah.
Back then you can't refuse the king, but at the same time, I just figured she had some interest as well, so that's why she said yes.
Yeah, well, you do get a little pumped up. The king
Yeah.
sent for me. The
It's
king
like,
sent
oh,
for me.
for me?
For me. You know, me?
Me? Who?
little
Who
old
called my
me.
name?
Yeah.
And I just took my bath too.
Okay.
I'm ready.
See.
I smell good.
So
Yeah.
it was one of those, because there was a couple of spirits that played into that relationship between David and Bathsheba. You had the spirit of lust, which was David's issue. You had the spirit of manipulation, which was really working within what happened, because that spirit was also on David and how he manipulated the situation to get what he wanted and to hide his sin.
Mm-hmm.
Because he did hide his sin for as long as he could possibly hide it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so then we went to our third topic, which was those unhealthy connections and networks, those relationships. So we talked about the sexual, we talked about the leader servant, and so now we're talking about those connections. So when I say connections, it is those individuals that we have connected with. We connected with to do something specifically, and somehow the connection never ended,
Mm-hmm.
and it became unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about that. So up under those type of connections, we had talked about the God ordained. Remember that? The God ordained, which are those connections and relationships that God has preordained for us to remind us we are not alone and to assist us along this journey called life. And then we had the barrenness inspired. And those connections are relationships that are built on or from lack. There's a need in your life, and you see that need, and you see how that other person is strong in that area. So you connect to them, hoping that you're going to be able to derive from them some of their strength so that it'll help you build up. And then the third one is a mixture. It's a God ordained turned barrenness inspired. That's when those relationships have ceased their usefulness and you haven't let go. And they turn into an unhealthy soul tie relationship. And so those are the three ones that we have talked about in relationship with the soul ties. I think a lot of times we fail to understand two key things. These two very key things is that if you find yourself in a soul tie relationship, be able to identify what it is. Identify it, whether it's a healthy or whether it's unhealthy. Identify it for yourself. And then if it's a healthy one, ask God to show you when that expiration date is there. Because sometimes he doesn't notify us until the day of, or they'll do something that forever severs our trust,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to walk away cleanly and be able to see what God is meant for you to see in the midst of that relationship. Learn the lesson, take away the tools that you need to go into your next, and then release the experience. Let it go, because if you don't, then we begin to carry those things as baggage, and we take them into our other relationships. They end up being the lenses in which we look through to see people, places, and things that we encounter for the rest of our lives. So this, I mean, I have to be really transparent and honest. I didn't even know what a soul tie was until God put this subject into my spirit and said, "Here, do this one." So I had to go do my research. And I didn't even realize it was that much information out there on soul tie relationships. Honestly. Because I was never raised on that concept. And so I know if I didn't know about it, there has to be other individuals out there that didn't know about it as well. And if you're wondering what the entire conversation was, you can go to the Girlz Talk page on Facebook and scroll through. You'll see all of the episodes. You can watch those episodes. If you prefer to listen to them then watch them, then you can always hit Girlz Talk Real Talk on Spotify, on Apple, on Google Play, on just about every platform there is out there. We're on it, on Anchor, on Spreaker, on all of those. So you can always find us. The one thing that I appreciate about the internet, if you put in there Girlz Talk Real Talk, you'll find us. And it'll be on all of those platforms for you to be able to ask whatever questions that you have. So, we actually have a comment. She says, Miss Level says the spiritual exchange is so deep. Yes, it is. So this is the first part that I want to jump into. When we say that the spiritual exchange is so deep, what are we really meaning?
The spiritual exchange is so deep.
When you're dealing with an unhealthy soul tie relationship.
What comes to my mind? The exchange. Far as getting into a soul tie, something in you attracts a thing to get caught up in it. So it's an exchange. If I'm lustful, I'm attracting lust, and it'll cause me to, get in a soul tie. That's what I was thinking, a spiritual exchange.
What I was thinking to add to that, when we get into soul ties, period, before we talk about if it becomes unhealthy, we don't realize the depth of what we're getting into. It's surface to us. It's very surface because we're just looking at, I like you, you like me, we cool, this seems right, this seems good, this seems like it'll flow, yeah, or little red flags might come up and we're still kind of like, I can deal with that red flag, we'll just kind of push that under the rug, and then it keeps going. And that's what then it becomes deep. We don't realize how much it affects the soul. We don't know how much it affects our spirit. We don't know how much it goes in and just takes us in places, and then we find ourselves in a whole nother place at the end of it. Especially if it's unhealthy, especially we're in a place that mentally, and I think, and I'm looking at the comments as well, a place mentally, a place, she said, what she said, hi, I always say your name wrong, so I'm just going to call you D, because, I mess your name up every time I talk to you. I'm going to say, hi, girl. You said it right, though. She said exchange is physical, emotional, mental. That's what I was going to say. It goes way beyond me liking you, you liking me, and then we start sweeping things under the rug.
Okay.
And then what comes up for me is the fact that operating from a place of lack. So it's not that I'm whole, me and God, we're whole. But here it is that it's me, God, and I still have a hole. And so what I'm
Mm.
trying to do is draw from another to fill this void. And so those are God spaces and places. But here I am putting some things in those spaces and places that are God spaces. And so there's going to be an issue. I'm taking from
Mhm.
another, from, their issues, the things that they have. They may not be feeling whole either. But here we are trying to take our
Mhm.
little parts and make this thing whole where we need to really draw it from God. So,
Mm.
yeah.
That's
I
good.
think that's so very, very key for us to understand, because in the midst of what we deal with, for real, on a real tip, when we get down to the nitty gritty of it, it's those relationships that you can't freely walk away from.
Mhm.
It's those ones that you feel like it's got such a hold on you. You try to walk away, but they draw you back in, and they don't even have to say nothing, just the memory, just
Yeah.
the thought process. So that not only is it physical, emotional, and mental, but it's also spiritual, because
Mhm.
we've allowed them to latch hold to us on a spiritual level when there was
Mhm.
never intended for them to be in that place.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's
Because,
good.
I often say that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And when we
Mhm.
allow people to get on that level of where we are spiritually, we run into issues, because
Yeah.
everybody is not supposed to have that space. That
Mhm.
space, like Shar'ron said, that is a God space.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we do. We allow those lacks in our life to get us tripped up sometimes. And even in that, it's very easy for a healthy soul tie to turn into an unhealthy soul tie.
Yes.
It'll
Yes.
flip the script on you, and
Mhm.
you'll be scratching your head like, my God, what happened?
Mhm. Mhm.
I didn't
Mhm.
even know you had that side to you.
Right.
What didn't happen?
Mm. But that's what.
Yeah.
But that really is how it begins.
It
It
works that
Yeah.
way.
begins. I don't think nothing begins unhealthy. Rarely. I mean, rarely. I mean, there's cases.
Yeah.
I don't
Stuff
know
can be
where you
unhealthy.
at mentally if they just start off unhealthy. I don't know,
Yeah.
but most of
Mhm.
the time, it kind of eases you into the unhealthiness. It
Mhm.
doesn't,
Mhm.
like eating. Something is good. It tastes so good, and it's not starting off unhealthy until it really gets into your system, and then it becomes to bring about changes in your system. And so that's the first analogy that came to mind, and that's how it generally goes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the
And
word.
you
Go ahead.
say
I'm sorry.
that's based upon that desire, right? Based upon that need that Sharon was talking about. And she
Mm.
wasn't on the podcast before, but she said what we talked about. So
Hmm.
would you all say that it's based upon that need or that desire in you that causes it to turn? You
Right.
understand what I'm saying, Michelle?
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be
begins
it.
Right.
it
Mm-hmm.
begins to show itself,
Mm-hmm.
because I've said this to a friend of mine, and when I tell you, she looked at me sideways when I said it. Um, my ex-husband, I really believe that he was grooming me for an abusive marriage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't realize that they know what they're doing. We don't know what they're doing. And so they have the opportunity to pull us into an arena that we know absolutely nothing about. Because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up in an abusive household. I was trying to think if I ever heard my dad raise his voice to my mama or vice versa
Mhm.
the entire time I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times people will see that in you, and then they'll begin to groom you into being the person that they need you to be in order for them to feel secure in themselves. And it
Mhm.
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's in a marriage, it doesn't matter if it's in a sexual relationship, it doesn't matter if it's in a leader servant relationship, and it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if it's a connection.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even
Mhm.
matter if it's in a partnership,
Mhm.
Mhm.
because
That's
there's
true.
always one that is left with not all of the information.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
What comes up for me is boundaries. And so there's boundaries being crossed, boundaries being crossed. And even if you step one toe across it, you cross the boundary. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's just that little bit. Okay, so was I allowed to cross that? And then what happened after that? All right, I'm gonna cross it a little bit more. I'm gonna cross
Mhm.
it a little bit more. Now I got both feet over the line and I'm all the way over there. And it's like now this thing is, how did we get all the way over here? It usually wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that big jump. Usually it was just barely got a toe across, barely a little bit across. So it's just being mindful that when you cross boundaries, it's telling people how it is that you're going to allow them to treat you.
See,
Because I,
that's
I believe
good.
we teach people how to treat us,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and
That's
you know,
awesome. Yeah.
by what it is that we allow. And sometimes we don't realize it's like you're doing this or you're doing that. Well, what are you allowing to take place? Sometimes you don't even see it. It's like, oh, that was a one off. Sometimes it's not necessarily a one off. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that, no, this is going to continue. So it's being mindful of those types of things, crossing boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
There is a book out in for national distribution, and I actually took the class that was built around the book. It's called Boundaries, and in the book, it talks about that very thing. How you have to purposely set up what the guidelines of that relationship needs to look for you in order for it to be healthy, and then
Mm-hmm.
allow that individual to do the same thing. And those gray areas that you're not sure of, you always leave it as, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's come to an understanding about that. I'm not
Yeah.
just going to allow you to step into this gray area and behave any way that you want to behave because I have never experienced that before. And then the other thing is, when you start noticing it happen, identify it.
Mm-hmm.
Identify it on the spot. Because
Yeah.
I have found myself saying to people, I don't know who you are. You're not the person that I know. So I tell you what, if you can't get that person back,
Mm-hmm. But it goes back to being whole,
yeah.
Yeah.
or not needy,
Mm-hmm.
not lacking, not barren.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are barren, you begin to take away boundaries. You'll say, you know what, I was a little bit too strict in that area. So let me go ahead and slide that line on back because seemingly all my boundaries that you just like you said, Michelle, create boundaries that are say that protect you basically. To
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, you can't, these are the things that just are no goes. But what I found that happens, and not to pick on singles, but what I do find, because I do counsel and speak to a lot of single women, they feel like the reason I'm still single is because I have too many boundaries and I have too many things that, so guess what? Well, maybe if I let that down, I'll finally get a man, then I'll fix it. Like I'll let this
Mm-hmm.
down and
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring him into my world and then I'm gonna fix him. And then I'll put that boundary back up. No, boo, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Mm-hmm.
That's not gonna happen because once that person sees that, like Shar'ron said, they can cross. When you try to act like you putting the boundary back up, they're gonna look at you like, yo, you got me twisted. You got me twisted. You think really you're gonna be able to put that back up after you to let me over here? Yeah, you messed
Mm-hmm.
up. And then there we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
There's when that manipulation starts. That
Absolutely.
making it
Because
seem
that
like
spirit
you
of
first.
manipulation is real. And,
Yes, it is.
and people don't seem to understand that there are two spirits that are running rampant within the church organism. I'm not talking about church buildings, I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
the people.
Yes.
And the two main ones is the spirit of manipulation and the spirit of offense. Those are the two main things that are running rampant through the church organism. And it is time for us to be able to step into those places and call a spade and to begin having those necessary conversations. Because, like I said earlier, I never knew what a soul tie was, had
Mm-hmm.
not even heard about a soul tie until God dropped it in my spirit and said, check this out. Now do a series on it. And as I got into it, I was like, for real? Oh my God. I was in the computer like this. Because
Realizing that's what you were in and didn't know it. Is that right? Yeah.
at the time I wasn't in it. It was like Tracy. I have a lot of friends who call me and we'll talk about various things.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some friends that were like, well, this is what's going on, and why do I keep going back to them? Why can't I just let them go?
Mhm.
Yeah, I understand that, the sex is good and all of that, but why can't I just I
Mhm.
miss him, and it's like my heart and my soul aches when he's not there. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. So then, I do my Michelle thing. I'm like, okay, so what's missing in you that you need to find it in them?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then,
That's
folks
it.
start getting their feelings hurt because now you
Yeah.
saying something's wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Ain't nothing wrong with me.
Yeah, it is. And
And
I
so
tell them,
we
yeah, it
need
is.
to identify those things because let's be honest, this is the reason why a lot of women that are in abusive relationships don't leave.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up losing their life in the battle, or they will leave and come back, leave and
Mm-hmm.
come back,
Yeah.
leave and come back. And everybody around them is like, why do they keep coming back? I'll tell you what, because I remember telling somebody this out of my own mouth that was in an abusive relationship. The relationship was so abusive, they was tearing up furniture, cutting up leather furniture, trying to make you stay.
Mm.
And so here I go, tramping over there and trying to put everybody back together again. And so after about the third or fourth time of doing this, I told her, I said, you know what? I ain't come back no more.
Mm-mm.
Because evidently you like being in this space to where they're
Oh
tearing
yeah,
down your
Right.
stuff.
yeah.
And at some point in time, you're going to say enough is enough. And so in that space, I didn't realize even at that time that it was a soul tie relationship because
Mm-hmm.
they kept getting drawn back into the relationship. They'd send flowers, they'd say the right things, everything that they know you need to hear to make you feel good on the inside. But honey, let me tell you something about feelings. Feelings will lie to you.
Yeah, they
Oh
Yeah.
will.
yeah.
Feelings
Emotion.
will
Yeah.
lie to you. Feelings will
Yep.
have you believe in some stuff that ain't true.
They
Yeah, they can
fickle.
be pretty
Feelings are
deceptive.
fickle.
Yep, they can be deceptive.
Very.
Yeah, yeah, they can be
And so
deceptive.
I'm gonna jump over to Shar'ron real quick. So Shar'ron, I know that you are a licensed marriage and family therapist and that you deal a lot with relationships.
Yeah.
On just what we've been talking about, how our feelings will a lot of times keep us in a relationship longer than what we need to be there. Number one, it could be that thing that keeps drawing us back. Number two, it could be pride.
Oh, absolutely.
Now we've been in here so long that I'm gonna look stupid. I didn't come back so many times. Now if I walk away again, I'm just gonna look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
how is it that our emotions can be that deceptive to us? How does that operate? How does that work?
Right. So when I think about the whole emotional thing, unfortunately, some of us have a difficult time regulating our own emotions, and we seek things outside of ourselves, and so we might seek someone else to help us to regulate. I want to feel good, make me feel good, and that's how we're able to say, "See, you made me feel this way or that way," because we have other people who are supposedly helping us to manage our emotions. Or we might find substances or sex or whatever it may be. And it's like if I'm in a certain emotional state, I need to know how to regulate that emotion, be able to process, and to help myself get grounded. So that's the first issue for a lot of people. We try to figure out, well, why are people getting upset and they're just going off and they're hurting people and killing people? Because I can't regulate that emotion. And when I feel this way, I have to do this. There's
Mm-hmm.
no in between. There's no calming myself. There's no getting myself to a space to where I can handle this on a different level. Oh, absolutely not. You just crossed this line and I'm going to take your life. And so we see it all day, every day. It's like you could have a mom in the house or a dad in the house. A child spills milk, and then the parent is screaming and hollering. Of course, children spill milk. But if my parent is teaching me that when something goes wrong, you're supposed to take it up to 1,000. There's no such thing as, hey, little Billy, let me help you to clean that up. I see you didn't do that on purpose. Or even if you did, let's see, why'd you do that? But when we don't learn to manage our emotions as little people, and then as we're getting older, then here we are, full grown adults, and we can't manage our emotions. And it's, wow, I'm feeling this way and not realizing that later I can feel different. But I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so hurt. I can't take it. And I need you to bring back that good feeling. I want that. I don't want this right here in this space. I don't want to grieve this relationship. I don't want to go through this hard spot. I want to feel good right now. I want it on my terms, and I'm not trying to wait 3, 4 weeks, 5, 6 months. What do you mean? No, I know what that felt like in its good state or even in bad state. And I'm willing to go back through that rather than to be in this space that's this uncomfortable. So it's a lot that goes into it. See it every day, all day, every day. And sometimes it's just reminding people that you can go through this spot that's very difficult and you can work through it. You can process and you can get over it when they think that maybe they can't. Oh, absolutely, you can. It's a process, though. It's not an overnight situation. And oftentimes we want quick fixes. So,
Mm-hmm.
so give me this weed. That's going to be a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
Give me that drink. That's going to be a quick fix. Give me this
Mhm.
high. Give me that. Give me this. No, sometimes I've got to sit here in my emotions without all these other things and go through the process. So I
I
know I
think
went
that's
all the way
the
around that.
challenge. I think that's the challenge
Mhm.
because one of the things and one of the things that God has really spoken to me about years ago, and I remember saying it when I was teaching Sunday school. You have a right to feel how you feel, but you don't have a right to stay there. Deal with those emotions, or those emotions will begin to deal with you, and they'll take you in a direction you never planned on going. How many times have
Mm-hmm.
you heard people say, I got so angry that I didn't mean to hurt them as bad as I did, but I was just so
Mm-hmm.
angry?
Right.
You know, you go that far. And so I think for a lot of us, number one, in order to honestly pull ourselves out of a soul tie relationship, the first thing that you have to do is identify the fact that you're in one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing that really spoke to me, once you do that, then begin to deal with those emotions, because
Mm-hmm.
your emotions are going to be all over the place. From everything that I've read, I mean, from everywhere from A to Z, they're going to be all over the place. And so you begin to recognize what that is, you know, because you have to accept your role in the relationship.
Mhm.
You
That's
have to
good.
Mm-hmm.
accept your
That
part of
too.
it,
Mhm.
because they didn't make you get into this relationship.
That's
Mm-mm.
Because really, let's face it,
Mm-hmm.
nobody can make us do anything we don't want to
right.
do.
Mm-mm.
Especially women. I don't know about men because I ain't no man, but especially women. Can't nobody make me
Mm-hmm.
do what I don't want to do.
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm.
So
Mm-mm.
something about that relationship drew me in. And very real, it may have been a situation that that individual was reflecting back to me something that was lacking in my own life. And I saw it in them, and I figured if I see it in them, they must have it together. So
See.
let me
Mm-hmm.
latch hold to them and them latch hold to me,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be able to fix me.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that comes up.
Go
Uh,
ahead,
some,
Sharon.
Something else that comes up is I'll keep throwing out that word boundary. Sometimes we're having conversations with people about things we need not have conversations with these people about. So we cross the
Mm-hmm.
boundary. So we've given them all this information that they shouldn't be privy to. So when they use that information to get what it is that
Mm-hmm.
they want, because you shared, those weaknesses, those inadequacies, those holes, all those things, and it's like now I know what I need to do to get into this certain position. So sometimes we cross boundaries, and we're not supposed to have conversations with anybody and everybody about anything and everything. So we engage in intimacy before we've engaged in intimacy. I can say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true because I was always taught that intimacy is into me see.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm giving you all the backstory you need to have in order to figure out how to get me and how you want me.
That's
So
it.
I want to back up a little bit because I want to make sure that we identify a soul tie again. A soul tie occurs when the individual performs the illicit actions that creates the bond that simultaneously opens the door for spirits, demonic normally in nature, that set up in the soul that perpetrates the bondage. And that's the part we don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to talk about the bondage part
Yeah.
because we find ourselves doing things we never thought we do, going places we never thought we'd go, and being a person we never thought we'd be.
Right. And let me add, I was trying to let y'all get past that emotion part, but when you said that about demonic, the bondage, we don't really realize that that's what we're doing in our emotions. We are bound. We are letting our emotions bind us
Mhm.
and create this. That's why we, like you said, the feelings, the emotions, and they cause us to keep going in certain directions because we're being controlled and
Mhm.
bound solely by a feeling. And I'm
Yes,
like, my line is
Yeah.
always feelings are fickle. Do not trust your feelings
Yes.
because if you let your feelings rule you, one day you going down one street, the next day you going down the other, and you have no rhyme or
Good.
That's
That's
because
good.
feelings will have you
Good.
all up in some stuff if that's how you live your life. And too many times, and it's even sadder because we see this high among believers,
yes,
among Christians. We are the most feelingness led people in that I know. You like, listen, ain't we supposed to be spirit led? But we are some of the most feeling led. I'm like, come on, put that thing under subjection. And I'm telling on me because that's what I've had to do time and time again. I've been in that season of managing my emotions for about 2 years, like seriously managing, like not just sweeping it under the rug. Because I started acting in some ways that I was embarrassed about. Once I looked, I'm like,
Good.
I'm too saved for all that.
hey,
I'm like, wait a minute, I've been in this thing a little too long to still control my emotions that way.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you what, and I don't know if Shar'ron is going to touch on this at all, but it is a difficult journey to begin to take each emotion and manage them one by one.
I'm
You
gonna show
go
y'all
from,
something.
oh, oh, well, I can't see it.
Let's see.
okay, come back up. Come back up.
It's a glare.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. I think I know what you're talking about though. With your
Okay.
book.
The
Okay.
bullying, the bullying about the emotions.
That's what I'm currently working on.
Uh-oh, did
It's,
I lead into it, girl? Did I lead
yeah.
you into it?
Shameless plug. Come on,
Shameless
girl.
plug. Come
Yeah.
on.
So here's the thing, you're talking about the emotions, and oftentimes, like you said, our emotions, and I just call your emotions being a bully. Michelle, you recall we had the conversation around the whole workplace bullying,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, our emotions can do the same thing as a person. It can try to make us feel this small. It can try to convince us of this about ourselves. It can try to overwhelm us. It can try to control us. I mean, try to make us take our lives. You know, all those things that bullies can do. And so, wanted to have something kind of simple that people can engage in because everybody doesn't necessarily need medication. Everybody doesn't necessarily need to see a therapist. You know, even though I love therapy, I'm gonna plug it, but sometimes we just need a process that we can go through so that we don't allow our emotions to bully us.
That's good.
Because to be a fully competent adult, you know, whether man or woman, and for your emotions to put you in certain positions, it can render you like helpless. Like, are you serious? I
Mhm.
still don't have this thing under control. I'm not a teenager anymore. You know,
Mhm.
actually, I'm
It's
knocking on
awful.
50. You know, I'm knocking on 50. What's the deal? So, trying to have something that people can have in their hands to work through it because if your emotions are bullying you, you know, it's going to affect you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically,
Yes.
relationally, in
Yes.
all ways. Yeah. So yeah, you kind of walk. I wasn't even bringing that up
See,
actually, but
look at how the spirit works.
Now let me
That's
tell you,
good.
that's how Tracy's book got to be a part of the show. Okay.
But
I'll be the
that's
first one to
good.
purchase, girl. So when is it ready? When is it ready, girl?
yeah. Working on it.
I
I
need
just
that
sent
for
one.
several people. I need that for myself and several people because just because I might be further along, there's times that I find myself reverting, and it ain't a big revert, but nonetheless,
Yeah,
it's a
just
revert.
enough. Yeah,
Just
yeah,
enough to
just
maybe be like,
enough.
dang it.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
fell for that again.
Okay, now
Uh,
Chandra, you know you gotta jump in there where you fit in,
I'm
girl.
trying.
Right.
Right.
Like double
You
dutch.
know, I'm just commenting on what Tracy said. Us, you know, supposed to be the church. I'm saying, Christians, quote, supposed to be spirit led. But again, we don't deal with the flesh. that flesh gonna always be there, no matter how saved we are. We have to deal with it. Like Paul said in the word, he said, I die daily. If we don't deal with it, Shar'ron, like you're saying, without, you don't have a therapist. And again, that's good for some people that don't know how to be spirit led, don't know Christ, so forth and so on. But you don't always have to have medicine or a therapist. But if you just deal with you and see you, you will be able to get out of the rut. But my main point is just deal with that flesh. That flesh gonna always suggest. I think about what the word of God says. It's gonna always be enmity with God. The God in you, that flesh gonna rise up every time. But a mind, your mindset, your emotions, being spirit led to say, no. And I believe it. I believe it 100%. We can walk in the spirit and not fulfill the lust of the flesh. And if I can just say one more thing, remember what I said about you attracting what's in you. I spoke about lust, but it don't always have to be that lust thing. But that's what it goes back to as well. The attraction. So Tracy, that was awesome. Shar'ron, I was right on top of that. So
something you said, Chandra, just now made me think. We have to realize something that and when you get three ministers on a show at the same time, you might have some issues. You might have some issues because we'll start throwing in scripts out there and people be like, whoosh, where'd that come from?
yeah.
But even Paul said in his writings, he says, the things that I would do, I find myself not doing. And the things that I would not do, I find myself doing. And so it is for us to realize that there's going to be a constant battle. Yes. But the other part of it is be careful of what you're saying to yourself. That's self-talk.
Oh, absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
That's good, Michelle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-talk is dangerous.
Yeah. So I like when I'm talking to clients and they're talking about kind of some of that self-talk that they have. We talk about what that voice is, because oftentimes, that was a parent's voice that they actually, so if they're actually quiet, oh goodness, mama used to say this, or the teacher said this, or this person said that. And so sometimes it's going back that far because you are having a self-talk, but that's because you've internalized those voices. So they were outward, now they're inward, and now it sounds like your voice, but it actually comes from somebody else's voice with what they've spoken into you. And so being able to identify that, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm doing the same thing that this person did. They might be speaking that way to their kids or to their mate or whoever it may be. But sometimes you can definitely get to the root of that thing. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I've had a whole story with that one. Let me share my story. It's really quick. So when I was a little girl, I have always been an overachiever. Everybody that knows me knows that I am an overachiever. That's just me. I don't apologize for it. It just is who I am. And so I learned how to make hospital corners on my bed when I was like 6, 7 years old. My mama taught me. And so she would always praise me on how well I made up my bed. And so I internalized that I had to always make my bed with hospital corners. Okay. And that's how you can take those compliments, because I began to enjoy the way that the compliment made me feel. How special it made me feel. And so I internalized it. And this is the only way that I am to make up my bed. Because growing up, every time my mom would see my bed was made up with hospital corners, she would give me some type of appreciation. Normally it was a great job, whatever, those things that we want from our parents to make us feel good. I was in a therapy session, and yes, I believe in therapy. I was in a therapy session, and it came up in the therapy session. Guess who don't make her bed up at all anymore?
Just spin it, girl.
99 things.
Yeah. You're speaking to choice, because here's the thing: when I no longer have a choice, that's one indication of there's probably an issue. So when I no longer have a choice, I have to do it this way, or we find ourselves with all the shoulds, you should. It's like, what is that all about? That one thing you said about it made you feel special. I think
Mm-hmm.
we all want to feel special.
Yeah.
So when we think about that thing that's mine, we want to be unique. We want to be special. So anytime somebody kind of lays that on you and they tell you how special you are in certain ways, then there's a chance that you may lean a little bit further than you need to because I want more of that. Because
Yeah.
that feels good. It's like that natural drug. You know, you compliment me. Oh, really? I'm gonna
Really?
wear my hair like that for the next 6 months. It's like you got one
Right.
compliment,
Well, I said, one, honey, one.
one compliment about that hairdo, and you ain't changed it in 6 months
Okay,
because
well,
we.
let's switch it up, Shar'ron. That wife that went and got her hair done and has a new hairdo, and the husband doesn't recognize it.
Mm.
But the neighbor does. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh,
See,
wait a minute, not the neighbor. No, wait.
so husband doesn't, but neighbor does. Neighbor's like, oh, did you just get your hair done? That looks nice. What, that's a color. Oh, that's nice. And it's like, oh, he's not giving me those compliments. It could be
I
because he's
see.
busy, he's working, he's half blind. I don't know, but neighbor is. And now I'm going out, and I'm doing stuff in the yard when neighbor's out there.
Mm.
Let's see if he notices this shirt. Let me see if he notices these new shoes. Let me speak. Let me see if I can take him over a little, bread or I don't know. So we. I'm trying to be
Okay, we
careful.
want that play.
But listen, but I want to go back to
She's
what
right.
happens when that husband doesn't, or whoever, relationship, or whoever you thought you knew you was gonna get a compliment from. It's amazing and it's crazy. I was just ministering to somebody on this level. When somebody doesn't recognize you that you feel should, then all of a sudden you feel unworthy. You
Yes.
feel unappreciated. You feel like you're worthless. And one thing
Yeah,
I had to tell this person, I said, you are going to have to learn the voice of God again for your
That's
life.
true.
You got to learn his voice
Lord.
because nobody else's voice and nobody else's actions will ever matter when you learn his voice. How do we learn his voice? We learn it through his word first. I'm speaking to the believer now. I absolutely am. Those who know the word, who believe the word, but sometimes we get too connected to others that we allow others' voices to be the heightened voice. And we begin to say, oh, I'm not worthy. God's over here loudly saying, but I find you
I'm right
so
here.
worthy.
Yes.
I find you so worthy. You're so loved by me. Then you're like, I'm unlovable. It's because you have lost your hearing. You've lost your hearing to his voice. Now, others' voices, they're louder. That's what happened in the garden. That's what
But
happened in the
I
garden.
want to tap in on what you just said, Tracy, because that was quite powerful. It doesn't mean that God has stopped speaking. It
Nope.
means that you have stopped hearing.
Mm.
Yes.
That's
And that's
good.
that you've allowed someone else to enter into that God space that Shar'ron
Oh,
was talking about
yeah.
earlier. That's where that soul tie comes
Come
into.
on.
Allow
Yeah,
them to step into that place where they have no right to be. You've
Mm-hmm.
allowed them
yeah,
to trigger those feelings that they are not supposed to have access to. You've
None.
opened
yeah.
up the door to allow them to come in. And there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about the man that cleaned his house, got all the demons and the spirits out of his house,
Mhm.
except he failed to do something. He
Mm-hmm.
failed to invite God into the space. So what did the demon do? He came back and brought seven
Smoke.
of his friends.
Buddies. Mm-hmm.
And so the
Hmm.
person ended up worse off than they did before. And so
Yeah,
I want us to really begin to understand that we open the door to allow them to come in, whether we realize it or not. We've
that's it.
allowed them into that space that is a God space. And so
That's it.
now we're going to have to get them out. So we're going to take a break here. Got a couple of announcement and commercials that I need to do right quick. And then we're going to
Okay.
come back. And when we come back, I want us to begin to talk about those signs of what is a unhealthy soul tie and kind of wrap it up with talking about how we can get ourselves out of those unhealthy soul ties. And so I'm asking everyone that if you have questions, please put them in the chat and the comments, and then we will We've got a resident therapist here, Shar'ron Mason, and we begin to answer those questions. So give us a second. We're going to take a pause for the cause and do a couple of commercials, and then we'll be right back. So I want to start off with talking about February. February, we know, is the month of love. In the month of love, we normally show all kinds of love to other people in our lives. But the Girlz Talk Real Talk show is going to be turning that around. And we are making this and coining this Self-Love Month. So during our Self-Love Month, we're doing a listener challenge. And during this challenge, we are asking all of the guests that come onto the show in the month of February to tell us one self-care tool that they utilize in their own personal life. And so to enter into the listener challenge, you will send either an email to the email address that's listed on here, or you can inbox us from the Girlz Talk Facebook page and tell us what date it was that you heard, who the guest was that spoke, and what their self-care tip was that they shared. Every one of the emails that you send in is an entry for you to win a self-love basket. This basket is going to be full of all great things. Shar'ron Mason from her Me Bags is creating us a basket that will be given out that will have all kinds of self-care tools in it. We also have hooked up with Sip and Share Wines, who will be donating some wines to put in there for you to have you a little wine. We've got some books in there for you to do and read as a self-care tool. So we've got some other things that are going to be included in the basket as well. And so we're asking everyone to take part in the listener challenge. There you will hear more about this as we enter into February and during the month of February. Now, the person with the most entries is the one who's going to win the basket, as well as be invited as a guest on one of the Girlz Talk Real Talk podcast shows. So I'm hoping that everyone will participate. And now what I don't want you to do is to put your information in the comments. If you put it in the comments, then somebody else is going to get your information and they'll be able to do an entry themselves. So just send in the entry either from the email address or from the inbox it to us on the Girlz Talk Facebook page. So I also have some exceptional news. I'm so excited to announce that my second book that I have released for national distribution will be coming to Audible. We are making it into an audiobook as we speak. So I expect to get more information about that. We are anticipating a March 2021 launch date for the audiobook. Of course, I am the author, and MS Vigilance is the narrator. And when I tell you this young lady is bad, when I tell you I can sit up and listen to her read any book, I don't care what kind of book it is. She is really good at what it is that she is doing. So please support your girl and go out and get your download of the audiobook that'll be on Audible. It'll also be on Apple, and there'll be a couple of other platforms that you'll be able to find it on. For more information, check us out on my website or check us out on the Michelle P. Jones fan page, and there'll be more information on there as well. So if you are interested in getting a free download of the audiobook, then make sure you send me an email or you send me an inbox off of the Michelle P. Jones Facebook page. So I think I covered everything. I don't think I have
anything. Congratulations.
So I am excited. When I tell you, sometimes with everything that's been going on in my family, a lot of times you can't celebrate the way that you want to celebrate because of the other stuff that are going on. But the one thing that I appreciate about my brother is he was one of my biggest supporters. No matter what I had going on, he would always make an appearance. Or if he couldn't make the appearance, he was calling me. Congratulations, great job, whatever. And so although I'm going to miss him, I dedicate this show to him today because I am who I am today because of the love that I've experienced with having him in my life. And I'm going to tell you, it's nothing like being the baby girl and having a big brother that you can look up to.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have our flaws. We all have our difficulties. But he was one, to me, that was bigger than life. Not only was he well over 6 feet tall, and I had to look up at him anyway, but he was one that I could proudly call my big brother and that I love dearly. So I'm definitely going to miss him. Keep the Bledsoe clan in your prayers. It's my only brother, so it's my mother's oldest child and her only son. And she is the matriarch of our family. And so we're just asking and making sure that you keep the Bledsoe clan in your prayers. So let's jump into it. I am excited. I'm excited. I'm glad I didn't cancel. I'm excited.
That's all
okay.
Right.
So we talked about the different kinds of soul ties. We've talked about our emotions. We've talked about the spirit of manipulation. We done covered a lot of stuff, y'all. We talked about the types of soul tie connections. I want to look at something specific. When we say unhealthy soul tie, I want to make sure that I make this clear. An unhealthy soul tie has a negative effect on your life and is not ordained by God for your life. Let me say that again. An unhealthy soul tie has a negative effect on your life and is not ordained by God for your life. The individual feels tied to someone in a way that pulls them down and or holds them back. At one point in life, the soul tie might have been a source of strength, but now it's not. And so it's like Tracy was saying, they don't start out as unhealthy soul ties, but they will quickly end up being that very thing if we're not careful. Okay? So negative soul ties can be from what we call demonic influences. And I'm the one that I think me and Tracy came up with that when we was talking. But it's the spirit of flattery. It was what we was talking about before. That flattery. Making you feel good. Oh, he recognized I had my hair. He recognized I got on a new outfit. Oh, he said I look cute today. Even when I turned around to see when I walked away, if he was still looking, he was still watching.
Oh, he's still looking.
Don't play.
Come on, Michelle. You telling the truth.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. So,
absolutely.
In this, what you find is when it turns into that unhealthy thing, when you start beginning to realize and seeing the signs, is when you realize that it started tearing down your self-worth and your self-esteem. And it goes back to the comments that we made before. You find yourself doing things to keep this person that you never thought that you would do. You would allow them to do things to you that you never thought that you would allow anybody to do. It's those boundaries. You allow them to cross some boundaries. Okay, and we also talked about the spirit of dependency. Those women that think that they can't live without a man. And so they take any kind of man just to say they got a man. And so we even have to be careful with that because that comes from a space of lack. That's that barrenness. And I talk about that in my book, but I ain't going to do a shameless plug here. I'll tell you about it at the end of the show.
You did ours,
girl.
One of the things that we have to think about is they show up in ways that we already know that they have a possibility of showing up. And I say it this way. You have the mama's boy and the daddy's issues. And so they are created from those poor and or those overprotective and overactive parental influences in our lives.
This is good.
And so we have to be careful, because if you are a man, you're looking for a woman that is going to do you like your mama did you.
Mm.
Or if you are a female, you're looking for a man that is going to treat you the way you wish your daddy had treated you.
Yeah.
And so understanding those feelings and understanding what is the underlying reason for the feelings is what's important in this situation. Because you got to be able to identify those very things before you can begin to get your deliverance and your healing.
Absolutely.
Because we can't change anything that we haven't identified needs to be changed.
Right.
So if I'm just moving along and I'm thinking this stuff is normal, I'm not going to make any changes. I'm not going to make any changes.
Right.
I want to remind the audience and our listeners and our watchers that if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comment section, and we'll make sure that the questions are answered. But then we've talked about this a little bit. Also, we deal with those feelings of unworthiness. I had somebody tell me this once: you just don't make me happy anymore. And you know I don't have no sense, right? So my reply, because you know I always have to have a smart aleck remark. So when did I become so powerful that I can control whether you're happy or not?
Well,
because I was always taught that you are responsible for your own happiness. Right. Nobody else can make you feel happy.
Good.
And so we have to begin to look at that and to identify it such as it is. So,
well, you know what? Not me. You know me. When you said that, now I get what you're saying. When it's like, you know, for you, you may have been taught that nobody else can make you happy but you, right? Let me tell you what comes in that knocks all that out is what we see. See, we're always shown different than what you just said. Now, you might have been raised up to hear that, but everything I look at says, this will make you happy. This will make you happy. Look at too many Hallmark movies. You looking at your husband like, what? You ain't taking and lifting me up and carrying me around the house. He's like, girl, if you don't sit down somewhere. You start, you know, oh, that car will make me happy. That home will, that outfit. We are visually told. We are manipulated with our sense of sight and our sense of hearing that, oh, this is what is going to make you happy. And so that's why I want to throw that in there, that we can be raised one way or around people that can reiterate that, but then it seems like the people that live better than us
right,
are keep throwing in our face that obviously happiness is wrapped up in this, and if you ain't got this, guess what? We got a problem.
What comes up for me is how this pandemic, of course, is horrible in the sense that over 400,000 people have died.
Absolutely.
But the sense that it stripped so much of those things away that you're speaking to, all those things that supposedly would make us happy, and now we've got to get back down to the foundation.
Come on.
Now, so it's like, okay, what's going to bring this thing on? It's going to be that connection. You know, it's going to be that praise and worship time. It's going to be that just a simple getting out and taking a walk. It's like, oh, it's those things. So much has been stripped so that we're down to the bare bones. And even with the relationships, now you can't just pop up over to your girl's house. Well, everybody's not necessarily doing it that way. But oftentimes you can't just pop into places that you normally would and go and do these things. And so now we have to figure it out a different way. And it's like, what'd you say was gonna make you happy? Well, if you wait for this thing, look, if you waiting for this to be over, you ain't gonna be happy for the whole year, because now they're saying it's probably gonna go longer. So yeah, it's making us get back to the real things, the foundation, the truths of it, because we've been bamboozled and it's not what we thought it was. So,
and I would say also it goes back to what Michelle said. Then you learn that it's you gotta make you happy after you've been tried this and after you didn't try that, and that's what we do in soul tie relationships. Oh, well, I thought he would bring me this or she would bring me that. But when we find out we've been bamboozled, like you said, Shar'ron, then we learn, like you said, Michelle, it's all on us. Deal with us. Know what we want. Know what we don't want. What we will accept, those boundaries, Shar'ron, and what we will not accept. And that goes to show it's all on us. It's up to us, what we accept and how it will make us feel. And it goes back to those the self-esteem. You learn to build you. That's where your self-worth. Know who you are. That's what I wanted to say.
And don't be afraid to ask yourself that question. Why does it make me unhappy?
That's good.
That's been my thing. I'm always like, no, wait a minute, Tracy. That's what I've had to slow myself down to say, now you about to go flipping off on a whole household. You need to figure out why that made you so unhappy. Why you so mad? And then most of the time,
let me jump in right quick, Tracy, because I think what we also have to understand is that when we become emotionally charged, we have to bring it back internally. I can't spew my unhappiness out on you and blame it on you, because you are not responsible to make sure that I'm in a good emotional state. It's not your responsibility. That's my responsibility.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm in a good emotional space and state, and I have my connection with God on constant, we talking on a regular, then I'm able to identify those areas in my life that needs work. But my challenge with the pandemic is this: you have all these single women that have been stuck in the house. I'm being real. Okay, you got all these single women, and they've been trying to do this online dating thing. Okay. And so then they find one that seemeth right. They seemeth right. And they're like, come on, let's do this thing together. Let's do this pandemic thing together. And then once they get in, you find out what seemeth right wasn't right at all.
Absolutely.
I know a young lady right now, Michelle, she's in that situation. And honestly, real talk, I'm praying for her. She don't know this guy at all. So yeah, we send up prayers for those who did that.
Yeah, we're gonna find a lot of women, and I'm not talking about young women. Okay, let's be clear.
Good mature, honey. Good old mature, honey. Good wisdom ones.
The ones that should know better.
Should know better. It's like, come on now.
But they allowed their emotions.
And emotions, that E word.
For constant interaction, because let's face it, we were created to be in relationship with each other. And when we are not allowed to be in relationship with each other, we have a problem. And so because we're not allowed that opportunity to be in relationship with each other, then we allow these things to come in that were never meant to come in. We allow these things to happen that was never meant to happen in our lives. All because we started feeling lonely, because we thought loneliness was associated with being alone. Just because I'm alone don't mean I'm lonely.
Right.
And I can experience loneliness in a room full of people.
Right.
So we need to really begin to identify those. And I think that it's so important for us to step into that space. And really, when you're having that sister girl time, do a sister check.
Yeah.
And when I say do a sister check, I'm not talking about, hey girl, how you doing? I'm good. How you doing? I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what so-and-so said and what they did? I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
I've had people, and my family is used to it, but I'll ask them, well, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Are you really? And they say, yeah, I'm fine. Why do you say that? I said, do you know what FINE stands for? Fanatical, insecure, neurotical, and emotional. So are you fine? I need you to tell me how you really doing. Don't
but
just
you know what?
pat answer to think that it's going to suffice and I'm going to go on about my business. When I asked you how you doing, I really mean, how are you doing?
Right. So the thing with that, Michelle, is that's you. A lot of people, if I ask you how you doing, I don't want all that extra. So it also is about knowing who you're talking to. Because
Right.
I asked you how you were doing, but I didn't want all that. So we probably shouldn't have asked it. But if a person's talking to someone like you're saying, and it's how are you doing, and I know that I can have a little bit more in-depth conversation, that's different. But
Yeah.
normally it's something that we just say. We say it in passing. How are you doing? With the expectation that the person is going to say, I'm fine. Say more than that, you've given me too much. And so it's all about, wait,
But
Knowing who
remember,
you're talking to.
I preference that on saying when you're having those sister girl conversations.
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
got you,
Okay.
got you.
Yeah, because I wouldn't go up to a stranger on the street and say, how you doing? And they say, fine. I say, are you sure? You fanatical, insecure, neurotical, and emotional? Now I've been known to do stuff like that, but I don't do that.
Talking about
That's
more of a
funny
close
though.
band relationship.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
you close
yeah,
with,
Yeah.
But that was funny though you said that because I've had instances, even my husband has had instances where you're doing the general greeting, like you just said, Shar'ron, the general, hey, how you doing? And honey, that stranger
45
was like,
minutes later.
I just found a friend. They was like, I am this, I am
They
that.
ready.
And I was like, oh, okay. So now I got I got to put on a ministry hat or something. I don't know what I'm supposed to. You ain't know what you're supposed to do. You like, I didn't know you was gonna tell me like your whole life and what happened in your childhood. I just met you in the grocery aisle, man, and we got on masks, and I'm trying to, you know. It's
People are looking for
crazy.
any opportunity to connect. I mean,
Yes,
so if
they
you
are.
if you just extended that thing and I'm wanting to connect, thank you. You were my lifeline. Now you're gonna sit here for the next half an hour and hear this story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've had that happen to me, literally. I've had
Mhm.
that happen to me, and you know how you be inching backwards to try
Yep.
to, and they be coming towards you. Oh yeah, but it's that lack of connection, and so we're willing to connect with anybody at any time because we're lacking something. We're
Yeah.
experiencing the barrenness that comes with the lack
Hmm.
of physical interaction with
Yeah.
people because of the
Yeah.
pandemic. But the
Yeah.
same thing happens in these soul tie relationships
Yeah.
Mhm.
because of what we're lacking. We attach ourselves to these individuals without realizing that we're going to pay a higher price than we intended
Yeah.
to pay.
Well, well, well.
Yeah.
Because every
Mhm.
relationship, and this is something that my dad used to say when I was growing up, and he would say, any relationship you get into, there's always an exchange. You're either getting something or you're giving something.
That's
He
true.
would tell us that all the time. And
Yeah.
I would be looking at him like, what you talking about?
It's true.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't realize it until I got older that I began to understand we exchange. When we are in relationship with people, we exchange that. We give and we receive. But
Yeah.
it becomes unhealthy when we're always giving and they're always receiving and we're
Come
not
on.
doing anything back
Yeah.
in return.
Speak about that
Drain.
reciprocity. Yeah. That's what you
Yeah,
speak
so
about,
it
that
doesn't matter.
reciprocity.
Right. It doesn't matter if it's a sexual relationship. It doesn't matter if it's a leader servant relationship. It doesn't matter if it's in a marriage or in a business partnership. It doesn't even matter if it's just simply a connection. If you're the only one giving in the midst of that situation, then you need to take a step back and say, okay, I need to reevaluate this
Yeah.
relationship
That's
because
good.
Mhm.
I'm pouring into you and I'm getting nothing in return.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it should always be a two-way street. It should always be a give and take. You know, even in the midst of what we as a family are dealing with, people like to pour into you, and they'll send messages of love and whatnot,
Mhm.
and they never expect you to say thank you back because it's just what they're doing. But then when they get the thank you, it's like, man, I didn't expect that, but I really appreciated it.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, I was always taught that it don't cost you nothing to be nice to people. It takes
Right.
more muscles in your face to frown than it takes to smile.
Right.
Mm.
Mm.
And so if
Mhm.
even if we got these masks on and can't nobody see you smile, they can see you smile
Yeah.
through your eyes
Mhm.
Come
because your
on now. You
face
can
will
touch
crank
something.
up and they'll know if you're smiling or not.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so we have to begin to take care of ourselves. And so lead in, shameless lead in. Okay. So when we began to look at this, what are some things that we need to do in order to break a soul tie? Okay. So we've talked about it. We really did talk about it here, and we kind of brushed over it. But number one was awareness, being able to identify that you're in one, knowing what it looks like. And the biggest thing that will identify an unhealthy soul tie relationship is that one person is giving everything and the other person is just receiving.
Yeah. Can I throw something out there?
Yep.
So we were talking about kind of that emotional piece, and so sometimes that may kind of show up in I'm feeling anguish, or I'm feeling distress, or I'm feeling discontent, or that disillusionment has set in. So sometimes it's a feeling of something's not quite right. Sometimes that'll bring about that. Well, what is it? So that can be part of that awareness for sure, as we're talking about those emotions. So sometimes your emotions can be indicators of ding, ding, ding. I need to pay a little bit closer attention to what's taking place here.
Well, I want to
Red
go
flag.
back to that right quick. I want you to talk about that because I think a lot of times we are so out of touch with the warning signals that
Mm-hmm.
we get, that when we get them, we don't pay attention to them. And if you don't pay attention to something for a long period of time, it stopped presenting itself.
That's
Hmm.
good. That's good. That's good. So
Wow.
when I talk to clients, I usually ask them, are you checking in with yourself? And for some people, that's a whole new concept. What do you mean checking in with myself? So that means you stop, you slow down, and you ask yourself, how am I feeling? How am I
Mm-hmm.
doing? Where am I at? And sometimes we want to rush past that. I'm good. So we'll do the same thing as we might do with somebody else. I'm good. No, actually, how are you feeling? Well, actually, I'm feeling a little bit sad. And that's oftentimes somebody be like, well, okay, this is a certain anniversary or something, and why am I feeling this way? Or I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling disappointed, or actually I'm excited. So slow down and check in with yourself. In the midst of everything that's going on, you imagine you're not checking in with yourself to see what it is that's going on within you. And then I say that apply love. So what's going on? Okay, I'm frustrated. Okay, so what kind of love do I need to apply in order to get myself to a level to where I'm baseline that I'm okay? So slow down. This doesn't take an hour or anything like that. This can be 5-10 minutes, but throughout the day, because we're all busy, we're all doing a lot of different things, we're wearing a lot of hats. But slow down and check in with yourself before you even do that with somebody else. Put your mask on first. How am I really doing? And what is it that I
Hmm.
need to address? So maybe something that you identify that you got to put up on a shelf and come back to because you may not be able to address it within this moment. But check in with yourself, utmost important, and get into the habit of that. Then even you might be able to tell somebody, well, I can't do this particular thing because now I need to apply some love. You don't have to tell them all of that, but you know what you're doing. I need to take some time for myself to get myself to a place to where I can actually give. Because when you're continually pouring out, at some point that cup's going to be empty if you're not refilling. So stop for a second and check in with yourself on a regular basis.
I really like that.
That's
You
I
know,
just
good.
wanted to add real quick what I got from what you just said, Shar'ron, which was awesome. It helps you deal with situations,
Yeah,
people, circumstances. You have a clear mind
yeah,
on how to decide on this or that, and even people. You can see them. They try to come into your life, and you say, "Mm-mm, no." You know what I'm saying? You can feel that thing because why? You have God can give you clarity. I would say
yeah,
him because it's like
yeah.
subconscious
Discernment.
common sense, so to speak. So yeah, that's what I just got. That was almost therapy to me. Come on now.
Okay, I'm sitting like, yes. I'm about to start taking
That was
notes.
some
Yes.
real
Yes.
therapy.
So I got check
Seriously.
in with myself.
Check in with myself.
but wait a
Get
minute.
me.
How to break a soul tie? Let me tell you what the first one was. Awareness is the heartbeat of therapy.
Yep,
See? That's real good.
there it is.
That's real good.
I think it's and exactly what you were saying is something that I learned in a therapy session several years ago. It was If I'm emotionally charged, go through my why process. Why am I emotionally charged? And after I answer that question, well, why? To the question that the answer that I made, and then go deep. Well, why? And then keep with the whys until you can no longer ask the why question because you have no more answers. Because that answer that you give yourself normally is the foundation of where that emotional situation presented itself. And so I had a friend of mine tell me, she said, normally, we go through the who, what, where, when, and why. Why is always the last one.
Start there.
And so you have to start with the why, because we'll get all caught up in the who did, what did they do, when did they do it, and where did they do it. And then we all angry, emotional all over again.
See?
That's right. The why. So you have to start with the why first.
That's me.
And to identify what that looks like for you and keep drilling down. It's kind of like when you got that bad kid that you're dealing with and you ask them, why'd you do that? Well, why are you
that bad kid?
Look at you with that look. And you're like, well, why are you looking at me like that?
Oh.
And then finally they'll spill everything out of what went on. But you got to keep at it, because if you just do the first why, they're like, nah.
Well, I ain't got the right child then, so that don't never work. Y'all pray for me. My child, I think she's gonna be a good lawyer or something, because that don't work for her. She'll stone face it.
Well, we talking to her. We're talking to her mama.
See, I was thinking.
That is funny.
So how to break a soul tie? The number 2. Now this is the hard one. So I'm prefacing that right now. This is the hard one. Destroy or give away every gift given to you by the other person that you were in the unhealthy soul tie relationship with.
Oh, I got something for you.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so sometimes, they're children.
No, I'm not talking about the kids.
That was good.
Finish my statement.
And I'm saying that for a reason, because
I know
we get triggered. And for some people, is I can't look at this child because you look just like your mama, you look just like your daddy, whatever the case may be. And so we have to be able to work through that, because we have to have a healthy relationship with this child. But sometimes that's kind of what it is. I got this whole person that came from this situation.
Wow.
And now I'm having a hard time disconnecting, so I can say that I'm going to keep inviting you back and going back and forth.
That's
because
good.
I've got this constant reminder. And whatever, if I'm going to be all up in my feelings anyway, you might as well come on back up in here. I mean, what are we going to do?
Wow.
So it plays itself in so many different ways.
You brought up a good point, Shar'ron, because even in the midst of that, a lot of times that's why the child gets abused.
Yes.
It's unfortunate. Those words. You're going to be just like your no good daddy.
That's the reason why I go back to my first one, therapy. You know, I am, and look, I'm saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, water baptized, and I'm speaking in other languages as the Holy Spirit gives utterance.
Come on.
All of that.
Yes, yes.
Right? But I will take my behind on a therapist's couch and tell them, look, I'm having a rough time and I need some professional help, because I can go talk to the girls about this and I'll be more jacked up when I leave the conversation than when I came.
Because you're going to leave their stuff and yours. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go over here and let this therapist use what they have been trained to do to help me develop the tools that I need to develop to cope. Because coping mechanisms that I put in place so that I can overcome this relationship.
Yes.
That's the important part. I'm not just telling you to go to somebody and tell them your business just for the sake of telling your business. Right. I'm telling you to go so that you can, as my friends say, you can go get therapized. so that you can get those coping skills and you can learn those skills and be taught in real time how to apply them to your life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your time. You can be totally selfish. That's your time.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
unlike when it's girlfriend to girlfriend, oftentimes you can be saying some things and then, oh, I'm going to throw my stuff in there and I'm going to throw my stuff in. I'm
Yeah.
like, I thought I was coming to talk to you about my stuff. How do we get on your stuff? So in this
Right.
relationship, this isn't about you. This is about what I'm bringing. And so that you can have that whole 50 minutes, 80 minutes, whatever that contract is about, and you can do your work. That's what that's all about. Yeah.
Plus, they're not
Mm-hmm.
emotionally attached. There's
Yeah.
To your
no
situation. Yeah, they're like,
attachment, no tension other than thank you for coming. I'm glad I was able to help you my money.
Okay.
and that's the good thing, especially if you're a believer, it's really important, I believe, to find a Christian therapist. If that
Amen.
because they'll align themselves with your beliefs. It won't be like you know what I mean,
That's
like a
Yeah.
tug of war type
Okay,
thing.
but even to that, I'm gonna throw this in. I believe in, and I am not a racist by any stretch of the imagination, but there are cultural biases, and they're to be culturally emphatic and to understand. Find you a therapist that looks like you, that may have experienced some of the things that you have experienced, because
Yes.
there's some cultural things that we
Yes.
say and do that someone that is not of my race will not pick up on,
Mm-hmm.
whereas someone of my race will be like, wait a minute, whoa, Nelly,
Mm-hmm.
back
Mm-hmm.
it up, what did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me throw something out there. So you got some people who may actually have a preference one way or the other. So it could be I want somebody of a different race, but the main thing for me is that you're comfortable with who you're seeing. Because
Yeah.
if I'm in that room and I'm with somebody that looks like me, however, I'm ashamed about sharing some stuff and I'm gonna hold half of that stuff in because I know this sister gonna be looking at me like, no, you didn't. We don't do that. So
Mm.
mostly be comfortable with who it is that you're sitting with, and that's
Yeah.
whoever that may be, whatever they may look like. Uh, yeah, be
Yeah.
comfortable.
But
That's
Yeah.
good.
it's okay to interview. Now, just because your company said this is the practice that we have, and this is the doctor that everybody goes to in this practice, but there may be 10 therapists in that practice.
Mm-hmm.
If that one you don't connect with, then try you another one. Because
Mm-hmm.
guess what? You paying them to see you.
Yeah.
So make sure that it's working for you. Don't just say I went to counseling for the simple fact to say I went to counseling.
Mm-mm.
Right.
There
Right.
needs to be there needs to be an exchange. I'm
Yeah.
giving you some money for you to give me a service. So
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be that exchange. So what I was saying in my comment before the therapist kicked in about the cheering was to destroy or give away any gifts given to you by the other person. This includes items that symbolize the ungodly, practices and things that happen in that relationship in the past and present relationship, such as rings and flowers and cars and lingerie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm not telling you to give back the house. If you stay in the house,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have another car to drive, then keep
Mm-hmm.
the car so you can get back and forth to work,
Mm-hmm.
take care of the kids. But make sure that you're getting the additional help that you need. Now, we may be laughing and joking, but this is really
Yeah.
serious.
True.
We
Yeah.
need to understand that if you do not deal with your unhealthy soul tie relationships, if you do not learn how to break them, then they will break you.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to look at that because sometimes we have the strength to walk away and we don't. And then we have the mind to walk away and we don't. And then things happen outside of our control and we could lose our lives, or we can take somebody else's life, or we can be severely hurt. And so make sure that you're looking at the boundaries that you have and that you are checking in with yourself, like Shar'ron said, so that when your discernment is kicking off, you trust it and you know it's time for you to go, because you know that fight or flight comes into play and you need to be able to pay attention to it.
Mhm.
Okay. Our third point was to to renounce any vows or commitments made that played a part in forming the soul tie. So let me
Mm,
quantify and qualify that statement. Even things like "I will love you forever," "I cannot live without you," "My life is over if you ever leave me."
Mm,
right. Mm-hmm.
You have to, or "I can never love another man or woman."
mm,
Those need to be renounced. They are spoken commitments that need to be undone verbally. And a lot
Yeah.
of times we don't take that into consideration because our words are very powerful.
Oh,
Very.
absolutely. Yeah, I think about those affirmations, and so they need to be replaced. So whatever that was, I need something else that speaks the truth to replace it with. So I don't just throw it out, but put something in there that replaces it that's affirming in the direction that you're trying to move in, and then continue to repeat that. Continue, continue, continue until it really takes a hold. So yeah, replace it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the final one that I had down here on how to break a soul tie is forgive. Forgive yourself and forgive the other individual, especially if you're still harboring any ill feelings towards that individual.
mhm,
But before you
Mm-hmm.
can forgive them, you have to forgive yourself.
mhm,
Because if
Yeah.
you don't, then you'll constantly be faced with this thing popping up in your memory and in your heart.
Yeah.
And you will constantly be doing damage mentally and emotionally and even spiritually to yourself. You were going to say something, Shar'ron?
Yeah, shame keeps coming up for me. Shame, shame,
Mhm.
shame.
Yep.
And address the
mhm,
shame. Yeah, because shame is different than guilt. Guilt can be a
mm,
good
Yeah.
yeah, guilt can be a good thing. You did something and you know it was wrong. And guilt would say, okay, yeah, I was wrong about that. Let me see how I can go about changing it. And so
Mhm.
it can help you to not continue to do that thing. But with
mhm,
shame attaches itself to you. And
mhm.
it tells you can't do any different. So it's not just the fact that I stole, but shame says you're a thief and you're going to be a thief. That's
Wow.
different. Yeah. So you want to make sure you deal with the shame that may be attached to that situation that would say, okay, I don't have to continue to go back because I'm not necessarily this person. But if
Mhm.
you're bound in shame, chances are you will go back because there's no other place to go. Where am I going to go?
Mm,
Yeah. So deal with the shame that may be present within that.
that's some good stuff, I tell you right
Very
now.
That's
good.
really good.
Oh, that's some good stuff.
Hence why I think it's important for you to get a therapist and begin to work through your issues because they can, and it's always important to get a non-interested party involved in the conversation because a lot of times when we hear ourselves, when we are telling somebody else what happened, we are actually hearing ourselves. And in the midst of hearing ourselves, something inside of us says, did I really let him do that? Did she really do that to me? And I acted like it was okay. And so that is when you can start dealing with it, when you recognize that there's a need for you to move forward. Well, ladies, this was another great show. I'm so excited you were here. Thank you, Shar'ron, for coming in
You're
and sharing
welcome.
the wisdom that you brought and the knowledge as a therapist that you brought to the table. My two sisters, thank you so much for sharing in this journey of the truth about soul ties and the different episodes, the different things that we talked about. We've got a couple of minutes. I want to make sure Shar'ron is off to see her peoples that she's got coming in. But Tracy, about 2 minutes. Tell us what you've got going on.
Well, I do got some exciting things going on. I may have to like reveal it a little later, but just know that some doors are opening for me even more to do the things that I'm doing now on a bigger level. So right now I do. I know, right? Yay! So that's what I'm gonna say right now. But I'm being allowed to just take the things that you see me do. I'm on Mondays twice a month, every second and fourth Monday, doing what I'm calling right now entrepreneur talk. But I'm really about to go ahead and put everything back up under the umbrella of getting to the root with Tracy Palmer. Because really the subjects that I'm going to cover. It could be entrepreneur, it could be personal, it could be health, it could be finances. So I'm about to really start digging into things. Right now we're covering what's called the authors. I call it the From Author to Authority series that we are talking directly to authors. We've already had a great show already. Got another one coming up the next Monday. And so I'm just excited. Got two more in February. Then we're going to move into our finance sessions and other things. So yeah, I'm excited about that. My book, I did the relaunch. I did hit the number 2 bestseller. I was excited about that. So on Amazon, so you definitely can purchase on Amazon. Get the Kindle, get the regular, or if you have other platforms, you can get my book through other ebook platforms as well. So I'm excited about those two things, and that's all I'm going to give
Yeah.
you right now because I got so much more going on. But that's what you get today.
So, Miss Chandra, why don't you tell everybody about 2 minutes what you got going on?
Like I said from the beginning, I am on Facebook Shine at TNOWF. It stands for the Now Factor. Whatever we're going to do for Christ, we're doing it now. And that is my motivation and ministry platform where I, motivate, inspire based upon purpose and destiny. And my book as well that I am in the process of writing also. That will be my fifth book, self-publishing. Again, it's entitled Take Another Shot. That book is, I dedicate that book to those who have tried and tried and tried, and it seems like nothing is working, no matter what you're trying to do, whether it's business, ministry, whatever the case, your goals, your dreams, what inspires you within to do whatever that is. Take another shot. Basically, would encourage those to know that it's not too late. Okay, you can still hit that 3 pointer. Just take another shot. And I am excited about it because I have taken another shot. In my life.
Awesome.
Okay, and I just say I just ask that that you guys pray for me because again I tell you I mentioned also about my work, and I work over almost 10 hours a day. So with that being included, I try to get all the time that I can to write and to try to minister on the platform. And lastly, my YouTube page. I want to relaunch that also, where I would, bring on speakers in regards to purpose and destiny, so forth and so on. I've learned so much from Tracy and Michelle. I think I'm coming up. I think I'm coming up. So thank you so much, Michelle, for having me.
No problem. And then our resident therapist.
Hello. So I said my newest book, and it wasn't the one that I showed the picture of. I'm working on that, but I sent a book on Monday to my editor, and it's called Entrepreneurship Ain't for Punks, because I'm all about that ain't for punks thing, and talking about those ways of thinking and behaving that are entrepreneurship repellent, you know.
Mm.
So I get all into that and I enjoy it because I find that a lot of people are launching, they want to have great businesses and they want to have empires, but they don't have the foundational things in place, and it can be of course so frustrating, and so want to jump into that and give folks tips and tools and information. So like I said, it is at the editor, it's out of my hands, and I'm grateful for that. Another thing I want to mention is, yeah, I launched in November my Me Time bags. And so I've been getting with people. I've got people that are purchasing it for others, and then I've got people who are purchasing it for themselves. But it's all about self-care and self-love. It's got all kinds of goodies in there and getting that into the hands of folks. So, of course, we've got Valentine's Day. But my thing is, you don't have to necessarily wait for somebody to, be your Valentine. You might want to be your own Valentine. Purchase that thing for yourself.
Did you hear me
That's
say
it.
self-love?
Self-love.
Yeah.
Purchase that thing. Yeah. Sometimes we're waiting. Oh, when is this person or when is that person? Well, no, if you're waiting, you may just be waiting. But if you go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and take that initiative and, do that thing for yourself, and it's like, okay, no, I've got my whole little pampering kit, and, here it is. This is self care. This is self love because it's not optional. You don't have to put yourself on the back burner. You don't have to be the last person in line, last person putting on your mask. No, absolutely not. And then we're trying to give, and don't have anything to give. So
Mm.
fill your tank up. Make sure that you're good. That way we can pour out and we can love on and we can be a blessing and do it all over again. So that's what I have to share.
Awesome.
Good.
You know what? I'm thankful that you all came on and that you thought enough of me to share this moment with me and to be here for this series. I learned a lot during this series, and not only that, I built some lifelong relationships with my sister girls. Um, our next month, we will be starting our new series, Church Hurt, the Spirit of Offense. So we'll be tackling that topic next month, and it's it's gonna be good. God has already showed me some stuff, and I've already shared it with the individuals that are going to be there. I've got some other things that are coming up that we'll wait to announce. But be on the lookout for Walking on Water in My Stilettos in the audio book.
That's awesome.
And
Absolutely.
again, I want to make sure that we understand that we're doing the listener challenge. And in the listener challenge, starting in February, the first show in February, every guest will be talking about their self-care tip that they use in their own lives and that you can use in yours. Make sure that you write that down, who the guest was, the date of the show, and then either inbox it to the Girlz Talk Facebook page or email it to the Girlz Talk email address, which you see on the screen. So thanks again, ladies. This has been another great show. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. And so again, this is Michelle with Girlz Talk Real Talk, because when girls talk, just about anything can happen. We'll see you again next week at the same time on the same station, except we'll have a different guest. So check us out. If you have any questions or if you want questions answered, please put them in the chat because we will go back and answer them. You all have a fantastic evening. Bye-bye.